Hello, good evening. I might have been out, as the fella says. I had a bit of a good walk, and because the sun was shining, it's shining, and then it can start raining. So you have to be fairly quick off the mark to get out and get a walk before you get around it. And so it was shining there a minute ago, lovely, and now I see a big black cloud. And if you happen to be out and just weren't near enough, that there's no leaves in the tree, so you can't get shelter, you'd be drowned. So, anyways, this is talking about going to work, and I've been talking a bit about that. So, I'm going to work, we say, any day. It's always the same kind of stress, isn't it? If you're going on the bus or the train from the suburb, from wherever it is, say down as far as Arklow, I think, and up as far as Dundalk if you're on the east coast, and if you're in Mullingar, you have a computer train as a computer thing as well. The only place that there isn't one is from Cavan. And that seems to be the poor relation, and yet there was ministers from that general area. They must have been asleep because there should be a train service from Cavan, the same as there is from other places. Cavan down to Dublin and at least to Navan. Because don't forget there's big towns there, Kings Court, with about 3,000 workers in different places. So these are very prosperous towns. And train service is very much needed for people. I mean, why should they have to drive that distance? And they can't even get a train in Navan. Now, there's a good bus service, but that's going down the motorway. The train goes and it doesn't have any of that kind of problems with blockages and that, unless there's a power failure or something. But otherwise, you can know when you get into Dublin and when you'll be able to get into work. You can time it fairly well, but when you're driving, you can't time it. So that puts stress on people from that neck of the woods. So I'm appealing to the powers to be. They're spending money like as if it's gone out of fashion and other things. 4 billion for this hospital or whatever it is, probably be God knows what by the time it's finished. That's if they can get nurses for it. This one in James Street. Well, surely to God, they could have put a train service in as far as Navan. I believe the work was done already by the previous Fianna Fáil minister, long since gone, Noel Dempsey, when he was Fianna Fáil minister for transport. He did all the infrastructure, but the other crowd, when they come in, the Fine Gael Labour crowd, they do nothing for anybody except for themselves. So you want to do something for the people in Cavan and these places. They're paying their income tax as well, same as everybody else. So give them a service, give them a train service for goodness sake. We'll be canvassing for this in the Christian TV Ireland project when it's up and running. That's one thing we'll be demanding because we're familiar with that area. We're living in that general direction, and we want to be able to travel on the train and a bit of comfort. We're entitled to that, aren't we? But after all, there was a train service in every town and village years ago before the Irish government it was already in place. All they had to do was leave it there. No, took up the railway tracks and all the rest of it, and knocked the bridges down so as the blinking train service couldn't happen again. I don't know what was wrong with them. Were the lights out of them there upstairs? Because only a fool would do what they did. You keep these services. You should have kept the tram in Hoth. That was a great tourist attraction. And the narrow gauge up in Donegal, it was on it years back. So that's how long the tooth I am. So I know all these things, and I was on the trams going out to Blackrock when there used to be in at Nelson's Pillar going out this way, that one the other way. So up to third Newer as well, tram. So we had all this. And then they took up all the tracks and now they put all the tracks back down again for the Lewis. So I think they don't know what they're doing half the time. But they want to put a train service on up to Cavan, the same as everybody else has it. Why should Cavan be done out of it? So I'm talking about going to work. So if you're up in that neck of the woods, you have to be driving, don't you? Because the bus service would not be. They'd have a bus service, but it wouldn't be as frequent as the buses in Dublin or as frequent as the transport facilities in Dublin are. Now, mind you, a car's no use to you in Dublin because you can't really go anywhere. There's too much traffic. You're on the M50, you want to which about you when you're driving. Anybody driving to work that has to go on that route, God help them. It's a nightmare. And if anybody has a bit of an accident on it, the whole thing is blocked up. So these are the stresses that people have going to work. I didn't have it, thank God, in my time when I was working. Funny enough, I was working mostly down the country. I was in the sales end of it and sometimes working abroad, but I didn't have this business of traffic jams. I didn't have to cope with that, so at least I didn't have that stress. You have other stresses, of course, you can't escape them. You have crosses in life and all the rest of it. But one thing they should try and do is if you are travelling by car, you have to, especially if you're in the cabin area and that area, Kingscourt, and going to working in Dublin is to try and just listen to something on the radio other than the news. Listen to something that's uplifting. The programs that have the spiritual type programs, Spirit Radio, for example, and there's other ones. There's other radio programs. I think Radio Maria is a good one as well, and at least you'll have something in your to nourish your soul, whether you're whatever you are, whether you're Catholic practicing or lapsed or something else entirely and never doing anything. But you've got to nourish your soul, whether you like it or not, because you're not going to live forever. This life is kind of relatively short compared to eternity. So as you go to work, don't worry too much about whatever problems there might be in the work because we all encounter problems in life. It doesn't go smooth, does it? So wherever you are, if you've got problems, just offer it up and say a prayer for those, but there's something wrong with them. These could be out, or you wouldn't know what hardships they're after being reared with and what pressure was on them. Or else they're putting it on themselves. It's hard to know because the families often put too much pressure on young people and then it follows through to adulthood. I was very fortunate growing up. There was none of that sort of stuff. We were treated all right in that area, and there wasn't this pressure on you to achieve this, that, or the other. Thanks be to God. And then we got an education, secondary school education, which must have been tough on the father and mother because money was scarce them times, and they had to pay a few bob and of course feed you and that kind of thing. Maybe I was in a boarding school for a bit, like being in a jail. Any of you that was as old as I am, or even younger, to spend any time in boarding schools, you know what it was like. It was torture. Food was more or less desperate. If you threw a bit of, you might get, we'd say you got a bit of roast beef, but if you threw a bit of roast beef at a fella, you might knock him out. It was as tough as the leather, like it was like leather, so you couldn't eat it. So, in any event, the problems that you might have going to work, take it handy. You'll get there eventually, and don't put too much stress on yourself. Say a few prayers as well. Bless yourself as you're going. Name the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, man. Do a few little things like that and say, Jesus, help me. God, help me. Because whether you know or not, you are conceived and made in the image and likeness of God. And He wants you to get to heaven if you can. So try and help Him along the way if you can. These are all good things when you're going to work. Don't take it too serious. You have a job. Hopefully, you've got decent pay and you're able to pay your way because that's important. Because you have to be able to have it earn enough. But I know when my father was a Garda and a policeman, if people don't know what a Garda was, and if they're from some other jurisdiction, he was a Garda, and like now they're well paid, I think, and that. But my father's time and even for a nice few years afterwards, their pay was average, and it was a bicycle is all they could have. Nobody had a blinking car in my time except bank managers and doctors and solicitors, and one or two other ones that seemed to have a few shillings. But the other ones didn't have anything. They were lucky to have a bicycle, and so on and so forth. I had a bicycle, and it was a great power of good for going about. And when I finished my education, jobs were scarce when I was growing up in Boycounter was common. So I had to go to Dublin. But lucky enough, I had relatives there. I was able to stay for until such times I got a job, which wasn't, took me probably 6 months because they were scarce as hen's teeth. So there you go. So, like, there's always problems and crosses. You'll have them too. But just offer them up and don't let them bother you. Don't let anything bother you. If you keep your wits about you and say a few prayers, you'll be hunky dory. Just say, God help me. And bet yourself when you're going past the church or that, maybe pay a quick visit, say, how are you in there, Jesus? And talk ordinary like that. You don't have to be all sorts of doing all sorts of jumping about. Just do something simple, whatever is easy with you. So I bid you good night or good evening because it's still bright. And as I say, I've been out and because it's a bit hot after it, because it seems to be warmer today. Some days it's very cold. Yesterday was very cold. Today seems to me to be warmer. It's nearly like a summer's day, heat wise, except for the rain that comes and drown you. So good night now and have a good evening. Bye. And may God go with you.